Okay, here we are, seventh grade, going to do a little review of what we watched today and talked about today in class. And so, for us, after talking about introducing God's big picture, we talked about two very important things, and that is the kingdom of God and the pattern of God. So, the kingdom of God can be easily summarized as God's people living in God's kingdom, God's place, enjoying God's rule and God's blessings. Okay, so that's going to be, we're going to keep coming back to this little grid and we're going to end up talking about, okay, who's God's people and what place are we talking about and what does his rule and blessing look like? But this is going to be kind of, when we talk about the kingdom of God, this is what we mean. Now, when we talk about specifically the pattern of the kingdom, we want to say four things: that everything that God creates is good. He doesn't create anything bad. And the second thing is that he creates two specific people, Adam and Eve, and he makes them in a very unique way. He makes them in his image and in his likeness. That's different than everything else that God has created. And in the storyline in Genesis, it says that once he creates man and woman, not only has he made things and he says it's good, he says it's very good. And then he gives the man and the woman something special to do that nobody else gets. Not only do they bear his image, but they're to fill the earth with more images of God and they're to rule over it. So everything that God has made, he's giving over to Adam and Eve to kind of be a steward of or run it or a manager in his place. And then the last thing that we see is that God rests. He rests on the seventh day, not because he's tired, but because he's showing us something about reality. He's showing us something about that we find our rest in God. And there's going to be a day where we can fully enter into that rest. And that's going to come at the end of all time. All right, so then we move on into Genesis chapter 2, verses 4 through 25. And this just gives us another account of creation. But here we're given something really specific to focus on. God creates a man, Adam, and he puts him in the garden. And God and Adam enjoy a perfect relationship with each other. And then, of course, God creates woman to be man's helper, man's companion. And so we have the first marriage talked about in Genesis chapter 2. And both Adam and Eve enjoy a perfect relationship with God. So that's that vertical part here. And Adam and Eve have this perfect relationship with each other. There's nothing that's wrong between Adam and Eve at this point. They love each other, there's no sin. And Adam and Eve enjoy perfect relationship between themselves and creation. And so we've got this beautiful picture now of how God's kingdom is shaping up. And that is that it's God's people, so that's Adam and Eve, living in God's place or God's kingdom, and that's the Garden of Eden. And they're enjoying his rule and his blessing, and that is they're enjoying perfect relationship with each other.